Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Crystal Thornton. This is my husband joining me, Gabriel.
Hello.
And this is part 2 of our talk on marriage and how we became an entity and things like that. So if you have not seen part 1, I recommend you watch that first before watching this. So it really goes into depth of how we got together, our friendship, COVID, how we got married, and where we are now. So pretty much if you watch that first, you'll get the background on where we're going right now.
Yeah, so we really just wanted to talk through some amazing testimonies. Our story of getting together, dating, and then being married isn't normal. And I think like there's such great information and stories and great morals and a lot of really touching parts to our whole story that we just know that you guys need to know. So we just wanted to share that. One of the amazing parts is we were able to buy Crystal's wedding ring.
Yeah.
Not only her engagement ring, but her wedding band.
Yes.
All of it is worth, I believe, a little over $5,000. It's a custom ring, and it's made with morganite, which was, she didn't even know probably the name of her dream stone, but she liked the pink stones, which is morganite.
The rose gold, yeah.
Yes, it's not gold, but it looks like kind of that rose gold color.
Yes.
It's actually a natural jewel or gem. I forget if it's considered a gem or a jewel, but precious jewel, I believe. And it has a natural pink color. So it's not like painted on or anything. It's very, very pink. So it's really cool to see like a rock can be that pink. But we were able to get $5,000 worth of rings for about $250 through this story. So stay to the end to listen to that. And also we had a wedding, which easily could have been 20 grand. And we paid probably around no more than $200.
Yeah.
Plus we paid our photographer. So probably 200 to 300. Nowhere near 20K. So amazing story. But if you listen to part 1 and you get here, you now are listening to Crystal's story with her host mom, and you want to touch on that a little bit of how you ended up getting that text of not wanting you to be at the house anymore.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I came back from being in Texas in May of 2020. It was time, guys, it was time to come back to Georgia. So I made the flight. No one was, man, the airport was so vacant. Like it was like a ghost town. I really feel like it could have passed for the rapture for sure. Like there was no one flying, very minimal flights, very minimal workers. Everything was, it just looked so ghost town like. And coming back, I was thankful, we made it, and I did not contract anything on the plane or while I was traveling, but came back, and me and Gabriel are dating at this time, and see him and start spending more time with him, start, just being boyfriend and girlfriend officially back in the same city or state at least. And I began to let my host mom know, I have a boyfriend and I'm dating this guy. And me and her were very, very, very close. And she was very nice and just understanding and heard me out. And I think me and my host mom really spent a lot of time together or talked. And she was just really good company and really understood me a lot. But when Gabriel came in the picture, I really felt like it challenged her and challenged possibly our friendship or our dynamic as, roommates and things like that. So I don't think she showed that right away, but I think it started to get to her slowly but surely. And she met Gabe and she really liked him. She said, "You were very nice and kind, and she's seen God in you," and all these good things. But But when it came down to the nitty gritty of the matter, and Crystal spending time with her or not spending time with her, it affected her. So it's very, very strange dynamic. I think she had more of a, motherly daughter dynamic than a roommate to roommate dynamic. And it really began to show. So sure enough, her niece moves in as well during COVID, because I think her niece had a situation where she could no longer stay where she was staying. So she ends up moving in with my host mom as well. So it was a 3-bedroom. I had one of the bedrooms, my host mom did. And then her niece came and stayed in the other spare bedroom. And so I was actually out one weekend house sitting for Gabe. He went to a family trip with his dad and his brother, and he let me pretty much stay and sit in his apartment while he was out. And while he was out, I was gonna just have some friends over and use the pool and just hang out and have girl time. And I let my host mom know that, hey, I'm gonna be out and pretty much gonna house sit for someone, and I will be back in like 3 to 4 days. And in that time, she tells me that she would like she asked me if her niece could stay in my room and sleep in my bed. And the reason was that the bed that she was sleeping on in the spare room was not big enough and was not comfortable, and her back was hurting. I got this all through text, and I really contemplated about having her sleep in my bed. I had agreed to it at first, and then I thought about it, and then, kid you not, probably about 30 minutes later, I texted my host mom and said, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't feel comfortable with your niece sleeping in my bed. And I really asked a lot of people. I asked you, I asked another friend of mine, and a lot of people said it was not irrational to say no, because your bed is very personal. You sleep there. It's very personal. It's a very just vulnerable place.
Product in your home.
Why would you want someone else that you don't know, that's like complete stranger to you, sleeping in your bed? So I was just kind of taken back that my host mom would even ask me. I understand that she wanted her niece to be comfortable, but I think there was other options than sleeping in my bed. And keep in mind, I pay her rent. I'm not just there or just taking up space. I pay her month to month, still even in COVID, I was paying her and things like that. And so she just really asked me out of nowhere. And then once I said no, she really was just out of pocket. She began to tell me, well, if you're not going to be here, I don't understand why it's a problem. Pretty much gaslighting, all the whole thing. And I felt very attacked, and she told me pretty much, well, if it's a problem, you need to get out and move out, and you don't need to be here, and all these things, just really attacking me and coming for me spiritually. It was so dark. And like I said, Gabe was going out of town with family members, and I was so distraught and bothered, and I was getting all these messages while I was at work. And I remember texting Gabe back and forth screenshots and showing him do you believe what she's telling me right now? And he told me to talk to her, and he really thinks that she doesn't mean it, and she probably will give me a week or two to move out if she really felt that way. And I didn't really take his advice. I was upset and kind of went home and kind of told her I'm moving out. You want me out, I'll move out, and not really budging. But he offered, he said, if something happens or if she kicks you out, you can always stay at my place for a little bit until you figure things out. And sure enough, I tell her I'm moving out. She tells me to get out on July 4th of all days. And her son's girlfriend at the time helped me actually move out. So we actually packed all my stuff, moved it out, and everyone was pretty much taken back by my host mom's actions and couldn't believe that she wanted me out of her house, and really just didn't understand. I didn't understand, but I knew that it was spiritual, and just understanding that I'm not fighting against flesh and blood, but against spirits and principalities. So really took that, packed my stuff, and took about 4 to 5 trips to take my things to his apartment, because he lived about 45 minutes away from me. And Georgia is like, really, it's not a big state, but these people commute and drive all over. Like, I've never heard of even the word commuting till I went to Georgia. So intriguing, that word, and just how you go so far for certain places, and driving 45 minutes, say me right now in Amarillo, like, is just not really much further. Like, it's not really nowhere. Like, you're not getting to a nicer town. Like, there in Georgia, you drive 45 minutes and you're in a whole completely nicer city. Like, it's not like that here. So at least maybe like the Dallas area, but here it's not. So, but yeah, it took about that many trips, and really was just sad. I was very sad that it happened that way, and, it all unfolded that way. But Gabriel was very kind and nice to let me come into his apartment, and he was not there, and my plans were kind of ruined. Like I said, I wanted to have a girls' weekend and swimming, pool, all this and that, and I didn't do it because I was just so distraught that my host mom kicked me out of my home in a way, and just said, figure it out. And that was that. And I had no one to really tell. I really just didn't tell a lot of people. I think I told one friend in the college maybe, and then Gabriel. And that was really hard to do. And just come to the reality of that I was potentially homeless, and that was my reality.
Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy to hear all of that back. I can't believe that, she really felt the way she felt. But she was going through a lot during the COVID season. We won't get into super details, but it was definitely a lot. But now at this point, Crystal's moved in, and we did not see this coming.
And I had no intentions of moving in with him, guys. Like, keep this in mind. Like, I got kicked out of nowhere in the pandemic. Like, I just was not realistic. Like, I think a lot of people told me, well, you should have got an apartment, and you shoulda, coulda, woulda, and I think that just, it was not realistic. Everything was shut down. Everything was paused. I even think apartments were not taking applicants because COVID in itself, they didn't want to interact with people like face to face, and a lot of things were just shut down, and you could not do a lot. And to say, well, you should have got an apartment, you should have did this, no one even had a place for me to stay, or they were too scared to let me in because of COVID. So it was so hard to even just find a place to stay because of the circumstances of what the world was going through.
The interesting part is we're moving very fast spiritually, and we are, through our conversations as boyfriend and girlfriend, we are talking about well, what are we dating for? What are we trying to get out of this? And we've agreed that we are dating only to be married. And, dating is not even biblical. Courting is a word used in scripture, which I don't know the easy way to really describe courting. I think it's really just having a friend that you are interested in enough to marry, and you don't really call someone a boyfriend and girlfriend in courting. You're either a friend biblically or you're a spouse biblically. So that's the way that we wanted to adopt the way we saw each other. So at this point, she's moved in. So it's like, okay, I guess we're going to find out real quick if I really want to marry this person. Yeah. And I learned a lot. And I think one thing that we learned a lot about is this concept of shacking up. I think the main thing I really learned about one is Shacking up, by the way, is not a biblical word, but a term for two people that are dating, and they're living together, and they're not married, of course, is the main thing. But yeah, dating, obviously not married. And one of the main things I learned is like we had such a difficult time that we can talk about a little bit, but then we've also had a very successful, a lot of successful times living together where, you know, it was very pure. And I learned a lot about courting or shacking up. And truly, it's a heart posture. And I think a lot of people don't give people credit for certain circumstances. I think the typical shacking up, I guess, situationship is, you know, two people really like each other, and they're having sex already, and they move in together. So we were not actively having sex and saying, hey, like, let's move in. Like, that was
those were
not the situation. You got kicked out, and I told you that I won't let you live on the streets. So, you know, and I think we never felt like convicted that, hey, like, we're shacking up. Like, I think by this time we're starting to really get very mature in Christ. Granted, I was nowhere where I was now biblically. Like, the way that I'm reading, studying now, hearing God as well, really night and day. But although at that point I was very, very like getting very mature, but now it's like galactic leaps. Really didn't feel any conviction because we knew the heart posture was, we don't want to do this, and hey, even we need to get you moved out by a certain time frame. I know we were, you know, that we mentioned that at a point, but I think, you know, that was the first revelation, was like, we are a little too harsh on everyone. And I think, you know, we have no place to judge people for how they get into living situations until we really hear them out. And I think that in our situation, it's very unique. It wasn't where we were wanting to live together so we could conveniently have sex with each other, but to really just give Crystal a roof. And so we were in this place. So from June, probably, I don't know, it was like,
No, it was July.
or sorry, July, and then August, we're talking about like, well, I don't know if we want to do this for long. Do you want to get married now?
Yeah.
So
I was very serious about
talk about
marriage.
a huge leap. But we were really feeling a lot of peace about marriage in June, probably. And so we were just filling it out and talking about marriage and seeing if that was really something we'd really do. Because we were both in a place where we were not ever the marriage type. I mean, I aspired for a marriage, but I never thought that I would be getting ready for it when I was. So I wasn't really the type then. And you never wanted to get married.
Yeah, I never wanted to get married until I moved to Georgia, and I told God, I said, I'm not getting married. I don't want a husband. And he said, no, you're getting married. And I took that very like shocked. You know, I think God is just very direct with me personally, and I knew that he meant it out of good, you know, reasoning, and not you're going to get married because that's the pinnacle of life, but truly like you're getting married for a greater purpose than what you can see right now.
Right. So we both heard our own words that like we need to court to marriage, and that's kind of what it was. So we ended up saying, well, the only way to find out is if we get a marriage counselor, I guess. So
Premarital counseling, yeah.
Yeah, if we get a premarital counselor, we'll figure out if we really want to do this.
Yeah.
So
that's one way to find out really quick.
We went into premarital counseling. Our premarital counselors,
and we were not engaged either. Like we typically you're engaged before you go to premarital counseling.
So we not only had to convince these guys to take us not engaged,
Yeah.
but we also
They were so scared.
did it while we were living together.
Oh, yes.
So
so many like red flags for them.
We nearly gave them a heart attack. So they had to pray themselves if they wanted to give us counseling, and they decided to give us counseling. Maybe they shouldn't have.
Shout out to them.
But they did it. They made sure to take our money, though, that's for sure. So at a price, they took our counseling. They did give us 50% off, though, because we all went to the same church. So we got marriage counseling. It was, I'd say, a pretty good session or program. They wrote their own book, and I thought their book was actually my favorite part of the program.
Yes.
I guess we can link their links. You're welcome, Dan and Lydia. We'll link their links down below where you can buy. So there's one that Dan White wrote, and it's for the man. And then there's one that Lydia White wrote, and it's for the woman.
Yes.
And we read it together in sync and did counseling. Plus, we read 3 other books, including Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace and
the love language books.
Dr. Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Language. And then the other one I never can remember. So they made
the personality book, like what personalities.
But I don't remember the name of that book or the author. It was
might have it.
pretty boring. But they made us read 4 books.
Wow, it was intense.
Why?
Very intense. Yeah,
did they do that? I think they wanted us to be pushed to the limit, but we read 4 books in 8 weeks.
I think because they thought we had time.
Or 6 weeks.
Yeah, it was COVID, and they're like, "Oh, no one has anything to do. You can read a book."
I cannot believe that. Like, we read 4 books. I'm not a reader.
I don't even think I read the financial book all the way through. I think I asked you at the end, like, help me, like, or what's the last chapters about? Because I was like done.
Yeah, I think I was on like 10 pages left on the personality one. That book was so boring to me. Yeah. So we go through marriage counseling, and, I think Crystal, she finds out, some great things and not so great things about kind of trauma. I think that's a whole nother video. We'll be here all day.
Oh, yes,
to talk about trauma we've learned in the marriage counseling session, but it's great. And that was so we learned about money, budgeting, sex, relationships, what the biblical marriage looks like, the history of marriage in the Bible, how God relates to marriage.
What the wedding ceremony even symbolizes, like even in the Old Testament, and how, we use certain things for the marriage that represent the Old Testament in Jesus in himself.
Yes, and
very beautiful.
We learned a lot, and we decided we wanted to get married. So we made it official, sort of, that we wanted to get married. And there were some interesting situations that occurred for me. I could just say that at one point, there was a demonic spirit that was, what's the word for? Tormenting? Yes, I felt tormented at one point, and she just essentially delivered it out of me. I don't know what it was. She claimed some sort of like Python spirit, and that was the moment for me that I was like, this is my wife. Like, God always showed me my wife would be very Christ-like, that she can pray, that she had great belief systems in the Word of God. And what better wife than a wife that can pray and cast out a demon out of you?
Yes, make sure.
I think that's top-notch wife qualities. Yeah. So that really helped me. I really took my time. I feel like Crystal moved very fast at this point, where she felt like she just knew and I didn't, and then it caused a little frustration on her end. But it took me probably an extra 30 days or so to like really know like after she really wanted to like make it official, like, yeah, I want to marry you, I probably took an extra 30 days. I think part of it is really just I couldn't believe that I was going to get married, like that I was about to start looking for rings. I just couldn't believe it. And I really needed to like, I don't know if I fasted. Did I?
Do you think that because you didn't have innate funds for the ring that it held you back from saying, yeah, I want to get married?
Yeah, I think it played a part for sure. I guess we can just go into that. But yeah, I don't think I fasted, which I've learned even to this day. I know it's typically not appropriate to mention, but I'm actually finishing a fast right now. And I've just been reminded, even right now, like that when we're feeling cloudy, we need to fast. We need to fast and pray and read the Word of God, not just fast. Because if you just fast without praying, you're on a very stupid diet.
Yes.
As Pastor Jensen Franklin would say. You're on a very stupid diet. Fast, pray, and read. And I feel like if I probably did that more seriously, which at the time I was nowhere near as mature as I was or I am now, I should have fasted and prayed and read. I probably would have seen quicker. But
Yeah.
so I finally realized Crystal is the one. And now I'm looking for rings. So we can kind of get to that part.
Wow.
So at this point, COVID is over. Like the peak of it, I think, is over. We're like in the end of August 2020. I think the peak, don't quote me, economic folks, but pretty sure the peak is over. And, or at least it feels that way. And I feel like my checks cut off. Like,
wow,
I
yeah.
don't think I was getting the checks anymore. So, and then my clients, most of them dropped during COVID. And so I didn't have really a lot of money. I had money, but it wasn't enough. So I started looking at rings, and she gave me a picture of her ring a long time ago of like her dream ring.
I think I gave
And
you about 2 or 3 pictures, actually,
yes, and I think they were all pear-shaped.
in
And
the Morganite.
you can see the thumbnail, like what that is, or I'll put the picture up on the screen right now. And that kind of is the pear shape where at the top it's pointy and then it comes down and it makes a circle. And it kind of, I don't think it really looks like a pear, but they call it pear.
I think it does. I think pears curve more at the top, but
I think
yeah,
it looks like
a teardrop.
a drop, yeah, more than a pear, but I get where they're going. It's round at the bottom, like a pear. And yeah, I was looking at these rings, and boy, was I getting frustrated. So she doesn't really, she's heard of this, but she hasn't really like, she didn't
the
know
thick
I
of
was
it.
doing any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, he was very secretive about it and in a good way. So
I think what it
didn't know.
was we were already living together. So it was pretty much the ultimatum was you need to move out, and we agreed to this. It wasn't me like walking in like, good morning, I need you to get out or marry me. This was a conversation we had, and it was
Yeah.
like, we don't want to be,
Continually living like this.
yes, because it's very hard. The second point that I wanted to mention, which I guess I'll skim through, is people. You always hear people talking about shacking up is wrong, but you never really get it. Like they never really say why.
Yeah.
And I think it's very hard to live with someone you're very attracted to and to keep God's commandments. It's just very hard. So at the time we lived in literally, I believe it was 799 square feet was my apartment. It was just made for me. And then unexpectedly, of course, Crystal moves in. So it gets a little hard to take showers, to sleep, to those days where you're typically alone and horny in your bed and you're fighting demons and God with
Yeah.
wanting to either, for me, it was always fighting pornography. Or for Crystal, it was maybe wanting to go out to the club or finding a guy or,
Yeah,
you
actually
know,
having sex.
in this case, you had a person that is your girlfriend, boyfriend, either sleeping on the couch in the other room or someone you are bringing and inviting to sleep with you in the same bed. And I think it really just inhibits a lot of sin to occur really like much more easily.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think that my favorite quote that I take with me now in marriage forever is boundaries are not created for your strong days, they're created for your weaker days.
Yes.
And I think there was a lot of days that me and Crystal were very successfully living together. And then there were other days that we did not. And things were very hard, very tempting when you literally are living with a fine woman like herself. You're like, I guess I'm just going to pretend she's not, you know, in her little pajamas or wearing clothes that are too tight, or it's just really almost impossible, especially in an apartment that's 799 square feet. You can't really get comfortable because I feel like the more comfortable you get with clothes, the for Crystal is the less clothes she's wearing. So it's almost impossible to be comfortable, and it's just not healthy. And I
Yeah.
think it's sad that from all these Christians, you know, y'all know that we keep it real here.
Yeah.
You know, that Christians are not actually giving you this kind of teaching. You have to find a video like ours and to hear the details of why it's so hard to quote unquote shack up and why you shouldn't. So now that we were able to, sorry, that's my timer to wrap up once again. But now that we were able to actually get with each other or live together, I realized I guess, how hard it really is. And I do not recommend or will never, under any circumstances, support living together before you're married. I understand things happen like our situation, but I will just say, if possible, do what you can to have it not happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't know if you have anything, you don't have to say much. But.
Yeah, I think it was very unique. Like I said, the world pretty much shut down, and it was almost impossible for me to find somewhere to live. Like, I guess I could have went to a shelter or there. I don't even know if they were taking people. Like, it was bad.
I'm sorry.
It was bad.
I could not let you.
It was bad. Like, no, I mean to the point.
Go to a homeless shelter?
Yeah, but I mean, things were so bad that like everything was shut down. I remember even jails, like they couldn't even have visitors come in because they were scared that the visitors would bring in COVID and they would shut down. Like everything was shut down. Everyone was not taking visitors. Everyone didn't want to see you. It was so crazy. And I think that I practically could not find somewhere to live, like realistically, because of what the situation of the world was. So if people really, get a grasp of that, I think that will kind of help them with all of this, but doesn't, like I say, we don't condone it, but it was just a very like peculiar situation. Like that probably won't happen again maybe unless we go through another COVID, but that was.
I don't know. I mean, you got kicked out not necessarily because of COVID. I think it kind of enabled her like radical behavior. Yes. But people are getting kicked out every day moving in with their boyfriend or girlfriend. So I think it's still happening to this day. But highly do not recommend it, especially if y'all are trying to avoid sin and getting into any cycles or patterns of lust. Pretty much the worst temptation to live with someone that you're attracted to, and y'all are getting very comfortable, and things are bound to get very comfy.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll just say comfy. So if we now get to the ring, so essentially we've decided, look, don't move out because we're about to get married. So we're in August. And I'm starting to look at rings. I don't have a lot of money. And I just start getting very discouraged. I mean, I even applied for a loan on, I think, a couple websites. Like, I applied and I got denied. My credit was not good enough. And I literally had no way to write this or to buy this ring. So I actually had this jar, and this jar, what it was it was like a prayer jar. And I had this vision God gave me even before all this ring stuff, that we would have an envelope, and on the front of the envelope, you pretty much write a prayer. And then inside the envelope is a card, and on the card is the hopeful prayer being answered. So, guys, you cannot write this. This is really what happened. It's even titled. Here it just says August 24th, 2020. And this is what I wrote. Lord, if it is your will, it is your bill. I feel like a lot of variables are floating in the air with income, and nothing is coming down into my account. I just pray for patience, that I can truly wait for these things to come when you're ready to give them to me. Whether it's chiropractor ads, Donnie, franchising, or me, I pray you provide for this engagement and marriage coming up. I thank you in advance for this. Amen. So just for context, the chiropractor ads was, I was actually reaching out to a chiropractor in my city, and we were very close to a deal to do ads on Google, but he decided to not. And then Donnie is just a friend of one of my clients at the time, and I was actually trying to do a website for him. And then franchising, I had another client that wanted to franchise, and we were actually going to get into kind of a full-time partnership with launching a franchise. It would be kind of, he would be the owner, but I'd be like his head of operations. None of this fell into place, and just know to this day, none of this ever actually happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, none of it. So very discouraging, money all in the air, and none of it came down. And so literally, all of a sudden, I pray this, and I kind of just try to let it be and let it go. And a magical thing happens, or I don't want to call it magical. It's really a blessing.
A
I
prayer
don't know.
being answered.
Who do you think will say this story better, you or me?
I think you can say it, because it really was your prayer. I think it wasn't necessarily my prayer.
Okay, so we invited over a friend of ours. We at the time would call her like a spiritual mother, because we wanted to call her a friend, but she was like in her 60s.
Yes.
So we just called her, we upgraded her to spiritual mother.
Yes.
And we invited her to dinner, and we made tacos. For some reason, I feel like it was, I think it was Aldi. Like, I made tacos with Aldi meat and made tacos for her. And
I thought it was enchiladas, but yeah, that's fine.
I feel like it was tacos.
See, we don't remember.
Spanish.
How good.
It was Mexican food. And she pretty much, at the end of our meal, she comes up to me, and I feel like she's starting to cry. She's like, well, I just wanted to give this to you because I know how much that you really want to get married, and I know it's probably been hard, but I was cleaning and I found this necklace and I wanted to give it to you. She ended up giving me a necklace, and she said it was worth a lot when she bought it. We're talking thousands. Thousands of dollars. And she's like, sell this and help it to get you a ring so you can marry Crystal. I feel like,
So did she know that you were in need of money? Like, How did she know to just like come and give us this necklace?
So we went on like our own little mother like son kind of date. It was intriguing. Like
Oh yeah,
we went
because
to
I went out of town in August. I went out of town for about a month back to Texas to tell my parents everything going on and how I wanted to marry Gabe. And Gabe wanted me to bring them a note back that they read about him wanting my hand in marriage. So in case y'all are wondering, like, did Gabe ask your parents? Oh yes, he tried, and it did not go well. That's a whole story in itself of our
too many
parents
stories.
not accepting the fact that we wanted to get married. So I did go away, and while I was away, he went on a lunch with
It's like
our
dinner,
a dinner with our 60-year-old spiritual mother. And he, I guess, laid out his heart and told her the truth of the matter and the truth of the situations that we were facing.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff, and I barely touched on the ring. I let her know that I was looking for one. Rings were expensive, but I'm just praying that I'll be able to save enough money to get one. I don't know when, but I will. And that was kind of that.
Wow.
And then she eventually found that necklace, and she decided to give it to me. And so I guess I'll wait until I get to the end there. But couldn't believe it. I told her, look, I've never bought jewelry before. I want you to come with me and buy jewelry. So we went to a couple places, and I got a couple prices. And when I saw that ring at the second place, I knew immediately that was it. It was actually custom made. And I'll leave.
There's none like it.
I'll leave the
way I like it.
I'll leave another link to our jeweler. Tell them that Gabe and Crystal brought you, and show them this video. We love Tony over there at the Avalon location, or at least it's across the street from the Avalon in Alpharetta, Georgia. And I knew it was it. I was like, that's it. That's literally it. So again, if you look at the ring, like, it's exactly the way that she wanted it. So as you can see, it's the Morganite, and then it has the pear shape. It's carved into a pear shape, and then around it is what's called the halo, and she wanted that exact halo where it surrounds the entire ring the way it does. And then I picked between, I feel like I might have seen a similar, I'm trying to remember if the band, so the band is the part that kind of comes around the finger, and it's even unique just how her band looks too. It's not quite, it's not just straight around. It actually is carved out, and it's kind of in this butterfly shape, we call it. And so it's just very unique from even and they're actually, if you look under the jewel, it's called the basket. There's even jewels in the basket under. So it's a lot going on, and I was like, this is it. So we go and take the necklace, and the guy tells us a price we can't refuse. Our spiritual mother knows the family from years ago. Apparently, she bought all her jewelry from Tony's dad back when he was in the Mall of Georgia. So they give us their best price. They're like, I'll give you, like, I forget how much it was, like, but almost the entire $5,000. Boom, right there.
Yeah.
He's like, sure, I'll give you this. And then I'm like, well, can we make this work where I get the wedding band too? So they're able to work out a deal where I get the wedding band and the ring for almost the entire price of the necklace. So the necklace ended up being upwards of in the upper 4,800s ish. Just the necklace. So I was able to almost pay for everything with zero cash. I just had to pay the difference, which was $250. So I left with $5,000 of jewelry, and only paid $250
Wow.
by
Yeah.
simply just taking this necklace that she gave us and gave it to this person. I truly believe that God told her in a vision that this marriage needed to happen, and that she felt so impressed to do that, that it really marked the beginning of our legacy and us doing the Psalm 56 ministries, our eventual church,
Yeah.
and saving, the people that we're called to in this city of Amarillo, Texas right now. It all started with that word, I believe, of give Gabe this necklace. So
Yeah.
I end up writing this down. This is the prayer answered. It says, Lord, you have truly done it again. You have provided all that I needed from Beverly's necklace, and I am at loss for words. We were able to buy Crystal's engagement ring and wedding band with the credit we received from the necklace. Truly, without you impressing upon Bev, there would be no engagement ring, wedding band for Crystal, or a nice location to propose. Out of all the moments you have provided, this is truly the most unbelievable. So at this point, he's already been doing a lot of miracles in my life. He's been paying my bills, my rent, all sorts of stuff. I never have went without, and he did it again. But this was truly, like I said, the most unbelievable way. After we even get the ring, she even gives me $200 to take you somewhere. We both knew that it wasn't, going to be super lavish, but we knew that it would be something. So I decided to take Crystal to Brasstown Bald, where my idea of, so I really originally wanted to take you somewhere like a hotel that's like themed romantic with a hot tub, probably way too much that we should be doing, but something like that with wine or something of that sort. And I just couldn't find anything, or it was not, I didn't have enough money to book it. So decided to take you to Brasstown Bald Resorts, and decided to then take you up all the way to the top of Brasstown Bald, which is a mountain in Georgia. It's actually the tallest mountain in Georgia, where you can see, I believe it's 4 or 5 states. You can see Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, and I forget if you can see Kentucky or not. I think it's just definitely, it's Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina. At the peak, you can see each state. So it's pretty crazy up there. It's the highest point. I forget how high it is.
I loved it, guys.
But
it was really nice.
It's crazy. So the goal was, we get up there, we look at stars, but it was a little too cloudy, but we still were able to see some. And then I was going to propose. So I'll let Crystal, because she tells this story well, talk about that, like us getting to Brasstown Bald.
Yeah, so we drive actually to, I guess, I don't know if it'd be like the resort of like where the hotel was and things, and settle in, and didn't really know. I had an idea, I think, that actually the Holy Spirit told me that he was going to propose to me. He doesn't, I think, sometimes believe me, but the Holy Spirit told me he was going to propose. He pretty much said, pack your bags, like, we're going somewhere, like, I just need you to pack your bags. And I was like, okay, where are we going? And he did not tell me. He was very secretive about it for good reason. But we get to the resort, and it's so nice. It's like, I've never been to something like this. So I'm like a kid in a candy store, like looking around, and enjoyed their food and just being with someone I love and care about. It was really just a nice experience. And so later that evening, we go and head out to Brasstown Ball, which is the highest point in Georgia. And we drive there, and the resort is, or the What would it be called? Like
The resort.
no, but Brasstown Ball in itself, is it called a resort? Like,
It's a landmark, I
yeah,
guess.
the landmark. It was closed, so we could not actually get in. Like, it was gated, and we couldn't get in, but we still parked and actually walked up there.
Which is allowed. They
allowed.
said it's fine to do that.
Yeah, so instead of taking like a bus or a trolley or something, we walked up there and pretty much hiked up the whole thing. It was the like most craziest thing I think I've ever done with someone, like in at night like that. Walking up a mountain or hill, whatever.
Yeah, it was paved. So they had like a non-paved part to hike, which took longer, and then they had a paved part. We decided to do the paved part, and I've never walked up something so steep. Like, you literally are walking, and you almost feel like
you're about to fall or something.
How up it is.
It was a very like incline workout. Yeah, so we walked, man, I think it was legit anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. We walked up that thing. Like, just walking to our destination, and that
not an hour. Definitely not an hour. I think it was at least 30 minutes.
It was up there. It was like 45, 50 minutes. It was a long time. So I think I timed it, but I can't remember now. But I feel like I looked at what time we started and ended and everything. But in the moment where he was walking, or we were walking up the mountain, it really solidified for me that he would endure hard things with me. And I don't know why it was particularly going up a steep hill that was so just hard, like hard work and just physically straining. I think that it showed me how much he can endure and how he can handle hard things with me. And that moment, it really solidified, like, he's my husband for me, like, more than I knew. Like, I knew, but I thought I knew, and then I really knew that day, like, that you were my husband. And I told you when we got up to the mountain and to the top, we finally saw the stars, and we saw a guy that was trying to look at the stars, or he was doing something, and he was a little strange, but overall, we seen the stars. We had moments. We were being lovebirds and all the things. But I told him, I remember looking out, like, kind of at the States and seeing the lights. And I told him, I said, you are my husband. Like, you are. And I think you were like, oh, I am? And I'm like, yes. And you're like, are you sure? I said, yes, I'm pretty sure you're my husband. Like, I'm very sure. And sure enough, he whips on his knees and he tells me, I believe, to turn around, and he has a ring, and the little box had a cute little light. It was so perfect, guys. Like, it had a cute little light to see the ring, and it was perfect because we were like in pitch black darkness.
Yes.
So if he would have whipped it out and it didn't have the light, like, clutch to Tony for having a box that has the light. But if it didn't have the light, I probably wouldn't have seen the ring and been like, what are you doing? Like, why are you on the floor? Or like, why are you on your knees? Or did you fall? Did you get
what's in the box?
Did you get a cramp? And he opened up this box and it was the ring, and I just started crying. Like, I could not believe you got a ring that I wanted. Like, I could not believe you pulled it off. Like,
yes.
I did not know how, I did not know when, I did not know where. And I felt so bad, guys, because I was like being very mean to him. Like, I think days or weeks prior to him, and just upset because I felt like it was not going quick enough, like our engagement. And I think I was just being a little brat, like saying, oh, we're never going to get engaged and you don't love me. And what are we doing here? I'm just going to get out and go live my life somewhere else. Very, very dramatic. I'm Hispanic and we're very dramatic people. But yeah, so when he pulled out that ring, I was so in awe and just really happy that he did it and he wanted to marry me. So we have our moment, we kiss everything, and we pretty much just, enjoy the moment of us being engaged and things like that. And then sadly have to walk back down the mountain.
Yes. I think it wasn't as cute the second time, but it was much faster, that's for sure. But you can't write this, guys, like literally, like I had a letter planned to I was going to read her this letter. Before I even proposed, I was going to be like, I have a letter for you prepared.
You read it after we got back. Like, it was cute.
I think it was after, I remember.
No, yeah, you read it in the room when we were in the room, once we got in the room again.
No, I read it like up there, I remember.
I thought you read it in the room.
Maybe we did, but I definitely read it like
In
up
the
there.
car?
I remember. No, up there. Because I proposed and then I was like, well, I had a letter, but I feel like the hell with this letter. You said you're my husband, and that was my cue, not the letter. So
I think of those guys who have a script and then they just throw it. Like, I feel like that's what you did.
yeah,
Throw it out the window.
like you're my husband. Like, what better cue? Like, so
I felt very compelled to tell you because it was very solidified for me that you would do hard things with me, and you have proven.
Yeah, 3 years later, and we've done a lot of very difficult things. So I had that letter plan, but she said that line, and I was like, wow. So really amazing. This is kind of like literally the movies, except this is real life, and it doesn't get much better than real life. Her saying that, and then me proposing. So pretty amazing. Well, I love you too. Well, here we are. We went very over once again, so we're going to have to do a part 3. And so in part 3, we will go ahead and talk about our wedding, where, again, we were very blessed to really spend anywhere between like $100 and $200 to $300 for this beautiful wedding that you can see these pictures here.
Yes.
And photographer, chairs, scenery, decorations, pastor, food, singers, audio, lighting,
everything.
$200. Amazing.
It's very magical. It was beautiful.
So if you need to see part 1, that's right here. And if you need to see part 3, if it's available, hopefully it is by now when you're watching this, you'll click it here and we will see you there.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. See you there.